Good morning and welcome to day 19 of the class. Today I think I'm going to keep this video fairly short because things are off and going. I had a look at everybody's document today and people are at various stages of completion of their essay. There are some great thesis statements that I saw today, and I saw a really good process when it came to developing the thesis statement, like a draft of it and then some feedback from me or just some thought on your part, putting it through a couple of stages of draft and revision and coming up with something great. A couple of things about the thesis statements that I just want to bring to people's attention though. Thing number one, make sure that your thesis statement is unified, which means you are showing a comparison of one idea between the two works, not three different ideas, because that's pretty easy to show three separate similarities between two pieces of work is a lower degree of difficulty than showing three ways that they're similar in one way. So if there's any confusion there, have a look at the exemplar thesis statements that I made for you. You'll see that in both cases we're comparing one idea and comparing it from three different angles, like from the angle of two characters and a symbol, or a character, a symbol, and a motif. On that note, I would say that it's really important that your essay is not written on the literal level. It's a piece of literature. We're working with ideas, where we operate in the realm of ideas when it comes to literature. So I should see you working on the underlying figurative level, which means you should be talking about things like symbolism and motif and imagery, even allusion. I'm not sure if any of the works make much use of allusions though. So I think mostly symbols and motifs, I want you to think in those terms. So at least one of your variables should most definitely be something figurative. You definitely don't want to be just comparing three sets of characters, because character tends to be more of a literal level, and that shows again a lower degree of difficulty. All right, but anyways, most important thing is to get something down on electronic paper. Get something on your document for me to look at so I can comment on it and I can give you some help. My feedback will help you to create that good thesis statement, and then once you've got that with all of your evidence, you should be off to the races. So if I'm not going to be talking about essays, what am I going to be talking about today? I just want to go over a couple of grammar points with you. Tomorrow, the video I have planned for you has to do with creating your voice, your own unique academic voice for writing. Tomorrow's video is going to be an important one, so I'm going to keep this one short, but I do want to go over a couple of grammar things with you. The grammar modules I have for you online, I hope you're making use of those. I'm not asking for a lot in the way of evidence to say that you've completed them, but they are there for your benefit to brush up on skills, because your grammar is really important when it comes to making the statement that your essay is worth reading and you are a credible source, right? Nothing ruins your credibility faster than mechanical errors. That's just the way that academic minds work. You're going to be going to university, you're going to be around academic minds, and those minds they're not going to, like, your professors are not going to just automatically respect you in the same way that your high school teachers do, because teachers and professors are very different. I got into teaching because I like people and I like the idea that I can do something to help people move along in life. University professors they became professors not because they wanted to teach, but because they wanted to do research. And the research is what's most important to them, and they teach because it's like a condition of getting funding at the university for conducting research and getting paid so that you can spend your life enveloped in ideas and in academia. So in some cases, your profs are going to resent the fact that they have to teach you. and they're not going to just automatically give you respect, and you have to earn it. And one way that you earn respect is by writing first class papers that have got tight grammar. So I want to go over a couple things with you. These are some things that I thought would be better for me to explain in video than to have a grammar module on D2L. So the first thing that I want to talk about is something really straightforward and brief. I want you to look at these 4 sentences here and tell me, do you spot the problem with all 4 of them? Hopefully you did. If you didn't, then you're probably making some of these mistakes in your own writing. The issue here is using wrong words. So these are some very commonly misused words. Let me show you what it should look like. So these aren't fixed up really nicely, but they are fixed. You can see that it should be then instead of then, have instead of, and affect and effect, accept and accept. Commonly misused words. So just to be careful, if you have any of these issues in your writing, they're easy to hide. They hide in there, especially could of and should of instead of could have and should have. And then, those two especially tend to hide in there. So just to make sure. Another commonly misused word, further and farther. Those are two that often get mixed up. Farther has to do with actual distance, like measurable distance, and the root word in there being far. Further is something that has to do with like distance in terms of ideas. Like, for example, you could say that Kurtz traveled farther and farther into the wilderness of Africa in order to further his career. Second thing, this is a little bit of review from grade 3 or so. So Daniel, this is true actually, we did go fishing today and we each caught something, which is great. Daniel and I went fishing today. Daniel and me went fishing today. This one's pretty straightforward. You should know that the correct combination is Daniel and I. And the way that you know that is because of this. If I take Daniel out of the equation, the sentence now reads, me went fishing today, right? If I take Daniel out of the equation with the above one, it would say, I went fishing today. And clearly, I went fishing today is correct. Me went fishing today makes you sound like a Neanderthal. So, but the same thing applies to this. So a lot of people, they assume that it's always I instead of me when you're talking about being with somebody. So apply the same principle to the second sentence. Which one is correct? Applying the same principle, we find that it's actually Daniel and me is the correct one, because if we take Daniel out of the equation, then the sentence could read, do you want to go fishing with I? Last grammar point, and this is one that I really like because a lot of people are actually unaware of this, and it's a very common mistake in language. And because it's a common mistake, when you start taking this mistake out of your writing, it's noticeable and it really makes your writing sound a lot more intelligent. So here's the rule. You are not allowed to end a sentence with a preposition. A preposition is a word, typically small words, but not always, a word that indicates the position of something in relation to something else. So for example, of, with, and under are 3 that I'm going to use. Under is a pretty straightforward one. It talks about, the position of one thing compared to something else. It could be on it, it could be next to, it could be with it, it could be under it. All right, so taking a look at this first sentence up here, this is the best example I could think of is grammatically incorrect. You want to reword that so that the preposition is within the middle of the sentence, not at the very end. So the way you reword that, this is the best example of which I could think. Right? That's the grammatically correct way of wording that sentence. Looking down the second one, you are the person I want to go with. Now this sounds like perfectly correct everyday usage of grammar, but it's actually not. The correct way of wording would be, you are the person with whom I want to go. So you want with to be in the center, or like inside of the sentence, not the end of it. And finally, the red blanket is the one I was hiding under. No, it should be the red blanket is the one under which I was hiding. Okay, so that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about your academic voice in your writing and leaving the comforts of the patterns and the what's expected and branching off and starting to write papers your way. That's what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. All right, so get back onto your essay documents, get to work, build that essay, take advantage of the opportunity to get feedback from your teacher, and we'll talk again tomorrow.